Hey everyone, let's talk Academy standouts for week 6. Now, I know I forgot or was too busy or some combination of the two to do a video for week 5, but the written version is still on oracle.elixir.com, so you could head there and check it out if you missed it because you're only watching the videos or whatever. But we're here to talk about what week 6, so let's jump in. And of course, the big news coming into week 6 was that FlyQuest did a switch with their LCS and Academy rosters. Kumo was playing in both because they had sold Licorice to Golden Guardians. Lots of context there that you can look into. But the FlyQuest Academy was Kumo, NXI, Kumo, Josedeodo, Palafox, Johnson, and Dreams this week. So if you see some names you're not familiar with, that's why. And you're going to see that right up front to some extent because the first player that I want to talk about was Kumo, who has been having some really good weeks lately and was a really big standout this time around, and playing in both LCS and Academy, and won all 7 games between the two. So had a huge week overall. In Academy specifically, he just really dominated, almost 2,000 plus 2,000 gold plus experience difference at 10, really big damage output, just had a huge week. And there's not much to say. He's I've said it before, he's in a really comfortable meta. He's looking like he's earned his LCS shot again, and he's getting it. And so far he's doing really well with that opportunity. Another player that I want to highlight, RoseThorn for Golden Guardians Academy. He's a jungler who has, he's really been, I think, out of his comfort zone for a lot of the year with the kind of high farming, carry-oriented junglers, when he's really been known more as like a Rek'Sai kind of a player. Like, let's do pathing that focuses on ganks and investing into the laners and things like that. And in a meta recently where he's been able to play a lot of Volibear, for example, Rek'Sai has been an option, but he hasn't been one of the people playing it. But things like that, that's been a much more comfortable zone for him to be in. And he's been doing well with it. Had a really good week. He played Volibear 3 times, and I think that helped. But, you know, he has a really good sense of how to balance out his pathing, how to hit the lanes at the right times and from the right angles. I think we could see the Rek'Sai from him. I'm sure he's been asking for it. So we'll see whether that happens. But he's a player who has been coming along. I think both he and Iconic and the Golden Guardians organization have been kind of making their progress. And the org is kind of seeing some growth there. Whether or not it's going to be the amount of growth they were hoping for, that's going to be up to the team. But I like what I've seen from RoseThorn in the past week and in the past few weeks, honestly. He's been kind of on the edge of breaking into this kind of standouts region for a little while now, and he got there this week. I think you're going to see that a little bit in some of his stats with, you know, not the best early game stats, but mostly because he's playing for his lanes very specifically, and you kind of reflect that in his own personal numbers that come through. Josedeodo, again, from the FlyQuest side. And as a reminder, if you haven't been following Academy standouts for a while, I don't filter this based on, you know, whether the player is really a prospect or whether they're an experienced player, and, you know, only talk about the prospects. No, I just talk about whoever's playing best in Academy. And Josedeodo is one of those. Lots of really good Lee Sin plays. He played 3 Lee Sins, 1 Volibear, 8.6 KDA, good numbers overall. He just looked really good, and as you'd expect and as you'd hope, he looked like he was a little too good for Academy. So that's what FlyQuest would have been hoping for. Some other players, I had a pretty long list this time of kind of additional standouts. I thought Contracts was pretty decent. I thought Darshan did some good things that kind of it's intentional that it kind of mimicked the wording from the week before, with the Mr. President joke and all that as the president of the Players Association. He carried on Gwen. Once again, he had a solid Gangplank game. Not so great on his Camille game, but Cloud9 Academy as a whole, I think, are struggling a little bit, and he's doing his job within it. I think he's playing pretty well. Inori joined Team Liquid Academy this week, as Santorin is still out, and they didn't want to have Armeo playing full-time Academy and LCS for too long, so they brought in Inori. You know, it might have been nice to see if they could have gotten one of the amateur junglers up instead of somebody who's had academy experience in the past. But, you know, I think the junglers and amateur that they would have wanted would have been most interested in, maybe were a little bit unavailable or difficult to get certain orgs. You know, a player like Tomio with EG as a prospect is probably, maybe they want to keep him in the org, and they might have been willing to move him on. Maybe they would have asked for some money or something like that. But anyways, Inori played in, and I think he had a pretty rough first game, but got a little better each game on, and was a pretty good, had a pretty good showing with TLA. Mystiques showed up here. I think EGA had a pretty rough week, but Mystiques stood out a bit with some really good engaged champions, Nautilus and Alistair. So that's good to see from him. He's had definitely a rougher year than you would have hoped or expected from him, but he showed up this time around. Pretty had a 14-1-7 game on LeBlanc, and he had a 6-0-6 game on Rise. 2 games like that are a pretty good way to get on this list. The other 2 games and the week from the team as a whole, not so great. So, that would be why games that good didn't get him into the kind of the top 3 mentions. But yeah, overall, I'd say on the sense of averages, pretty strong showing. And being able to do it on different types of champions, assassins, control mages. He's played lots of melees, so a flexible player. Everybody knows that I think Pretty is good. Newbie, I think Golden Guardians Academy, again, they tend to not have had the best year, but Newbie is someone who, when he came down to Academy for the summer split, you would have wanted to see, kind of like I said with Josedeodo, come in and look like you're better than Academy, and he hasn't really, but he had a good Thresh game. He played 2 Senna games, and one of them was quite good. There are signs there that he is, at the very least, at the top end of what you'd get in Academy, and that he's starting to click more with Prismal. They've done some very creative things between him and Prismal, of course, with Newbie playing the Senna and Prismal playing kind of the farming side of the duo. I thought Newbie was pretty decent. Palafox came in FlyQuest Academy. When he was in Academy last year, he was the best mid laner in the league for a good portion of the year. And he wasn't quite at that level, I thought, this week, but definitely showed that he is a strong mid laner. I think he's overall should be a stronger mid laner than Triple over the long run. Triple had a great week, but I think Palafox showed, like, at least that, hey, I'm not in Academy because I'm not good enough to be in LCS. I'm a player who wants to be back there, get a little more time and get my shot to reclaim that. So really good Akali carry game was the big shout out there. Team Luke for EG Academy, 2 strong Ziggs games, just really reliable and solid the whole week through, which is a little tough to do on a team that, for one thing, has as much variance as EG Academy, and also that didn't have the best overall results. But I thought he was really solid, really dependable, did his job in all of the games, which is great to see from a pretty inexperienced player. So he and Mystiques as a duo, I thought, had a strong week. And then Thian for CLG Academy had a really good highlight game on a Nocturne. He played Ornn again. He's the only person who seems to be playing Ornn right now. He had a couple of, kind of one good game, one bad game on Lee Sin. I really think that if Thien was on a different roster or in a different environment, this is a player that is really worth watching and could achieve a lot more. And he pretty reliably catches my attention despite the team struggling around him. So, again, he was on the list here as someone who did his best under some difficult circumstances. So those are the standouts for week 6. Pretty long list this time around. I thought that overall on the week, and one of the reasons the list is so long, is that there were not many players who were really good the whole week through. There was a lot of, like, a couple of strong games and then a little bit of not so great play on the side, and just kind of some inconsistency. But a lot of players had a couple of really good games. And I think when you play these 4 games a week, the best of 2s, 2 of them per week, you're going to get a lot. It's a lot harder to be good 4 games straight, right? And I think this was a week where we saw not many people were able to be good the whole way through. But we're getting near the end of the split. I think there's been a little bit of movement in a lot of rosters. We'll see whether there's anything, I think, rosters lock this week or next. See whether there's any other movement to carry us into Proving Grounds qualifier and Proving Grounds itself. But I think a lot of these names are people that that definitely have a chance to make a big difference there, and try to either be in the LCS or for the first time or back in the LCS going forward. So, anyways, we'll wrap up standouts for week 6 and see what happens in week 7 going forward. Thanks for watching.